Hey, welcome here to a brand new episode. I'm your host, Dr. Faith Elizabeth Nanyonga. If you're listening in today, I'd like to take this minute to thank you for each and every time that you tune in to listen to me as I teach about career development and personal development. Your support is invaluable to me, and I don't take it for granted. If it's your first time here, welcome to the Frame Solution podcast. And if you'd like to be a fan, there are 3 ways you can support this show and spread the love. Every single share, subscribe count matters, so do not think your efforts go unnoticed. The first way you could support this show is by leaving a review in Apple Podcasts. Reviews not only make the world a better place for me, as the podcast gets to many ears, but also rank our podcast higher in the podcast charts. You can subscribe to this podcast so that you do not miss out any episode as they are released. And also, you could choose to be a guest on the podcast by sending in an email. The email address is theframesolutions@gmail.com. Thank you once again.
Hello, welcome here to this session of the Career Clarity Workshop. I'm your coach and your presenter, Dr. Faith Elizabeth Nanyonga. And the reason for this workshop is to help you boost confidence, package your skill set, find career fulfillment while establishing your brand. So this is day 2 of this workshop, and so far we've looked at how to reframe your mindset to align with your career vision and gain confidence in your career path. And yesterday, if you've had a look at yesterday's teaching or the first lesson in this, you'll see that we looked at what it takes to supercharge your career. I introduced my signature framework on how I teach my clients on how to supercharge their career. We looked at the surface of reframing your mindset to align with your career vision. And also we looked at what it takes to gain clarity on where you're going and to have a well-established plan on how to get there. So in today's session, we're going to look at depth of it. We're going to focus on looking at the mindset. And through the mindset, we're going to refer to work that you did previously in the last homework that I gave you yesterday. And from that, you're going to see what are those hindering blocks that are stopping you from advancing your career. Today, we're also going to focus at establishing a credibility cocktail. I'll introduce this further. And also, we're going to touch on how to find your purpose. So when you look at the mind, as we did yesterday, you will see that mindset influences everything in your life. Yesterday, I told you about how the mind works, and the mind works by first your thoughts. The thoughts you have influence the kind of words you have and also influence your beliefs, your actions, and also the results. And the cycle continues over and over again. Usually when you feel overwhelmed, most of the time it starts from your thinking. From your thought, if you're overwhelmed, you end up being inconsistent, you end up being unconfident, like you'll have a bad time. And yesterday I introduced to you what it means to be those 3 professionals. We looked at the overwhelmed professional, the inconsistent professional, and the unconfident professional. And your mind will play tricks basing on this. The reason why people be overwhelmed is because they lack clarity. So if you're overwhelmed and you're having overwhelming thoughts, your actions and your words are going to be overwhelming. So what does it take to have your mindset set? Your mindset can be set in the positive or in the negative direction. In the positive direction, that means you have clarity, you're consistent, you're confident, you're showing up for what you say you're supposed to do. And all this starts from the mind. And your thinking defines what kind of person you are. If you're thinking thoughts of, I cannot make it, I cannot achieve this, I'm incompetent, I'm stressed, I'm stuck, it's going to end up being your identity. You're going to identify yourself as an overwhelmed person. I've had people who they ask, like, how are you today? And they're like, oh, I'm very busy. I'm busy. How is life? Busy. So you end up thinking you're busy, so you also pass it on in how you behave. So, and this all stems from the thing of not knowing oneself. If you don't know who you are, if you don't know your strength, if you don't know your weaknesses, if you don't know your values, you don't know your mission, you don't know your purpose, you end up having these overwhelming situations in your life. And this thing, if you don't know yourself, you're going to end up lacking the self-belief and the confidence to tackle new things or to even advance your career. You'll end up being fearful, you'll end up being stuck, you'll end up feeling confused and also feeling overwhelmed. So we've looked at that and I've showed you exactly what it takes to be that. So today what we're going to focus on mainly, we're going to focus on this work further and challenging your mindset. So to challenge your mindset, you need to have facts. These facts come from knowing exactly who you are. You have to believe in yourself to make big strides in your career. I talked about this yesterday in my framework where I told you about the self-belief, the support, and the strategy. You can have the support and strategy, but if you don't have the self-belief, you're not going to get ahead in your career. So you have to believe in yourself to make big strides in your career. But we often focus on what we don't have. All of us have been there. I've been a victim of this. Like, sometimes I want to try something new, but I'm like, I don't have this. I recall when I was starting the Frame Solution podcast. If you haven't listened to it, please check it out in all the podcast listening apps, and you'll be able to find many episodes. So far, we are on episode 28, and we have more episodes planned to be released in the near future. I remember when I was just starting the podcast, I had the excuses like, I cannot speak, I don't have the right equipment. Like, I found everything that could stop me from starting the podcast. But after time and doing the deep work, I was like, you know what, Faith? If you want to get to many people, if you want to cause an impact on the people that you want to cause, you have to get out of your comfort zone and start this podcast. Whether you have the right equipment, whether you have the microphone, whether you're good at presentation, I just had to let those beliefs go so that I started that podcast. So also from the homework that you did, you should have uncovered some of the mental blocks that are keeping you stuck. Some of the mental blocks that I've seen in my own career and in other people that I serve, I've seen that many people, we fear rejection. You want to apply for a job, but you're like, if I put in my application, I'll be rejected, so you don't apply. Some of us are scared of change. I recall when I was coming to Australia, I was so scared of change. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to go to a country that is 7 hours away in time difference from my home country. How will I be able to maintain my relationship with my, by then, fiancé? How will I be able to communicate with my parents? I was so scared of that change and the transition from being close to home, whereby I've been to the UK, that's where I was doing my master's, and to come to Australia. I was scared of each and everything that I was going to encounter. I even started making up the worst case scenarios of things that would happen. So many of us are scared of change. Many of us actually just lack the knowledge, what I call the lack of the know-how. Like, you don't know exactly how to do it. So you end up procrastinating. You end up not doing what you're supposed to do because you don't have the knowledge and the skills to do what you have to do. The other thing is that we fear doing a lot of things because we are scared of how other people will perceive us. We fear judgment. You're scared you'll be judged. Let's say you want to quit your job and become an entrepreneur, and you're thinking about it and you're like, oh, if I tell my parents, they will be discouraged. They will say they spent a lot of money on me, and how can I quit a profession that they've always dreamt me being in? So you're fearing that judgment and people's opinion. And the other thing is that many of us are very complacent. We are complacent. We know we're supposed to change, but we are very comfortable in that spot that we are in, that we are not breaking free of that comfort and getting out of that comfort zones. But most of the things that I've noticed is that many of us do not know ourselves. Not knowing oneself is a hindrance for many of us from advancing our careers and getting ahead. And that is where the credibility cocktail that I teach comes in. With a credibility cocktail, we look at the different aspects of your life that make you up as a whole. There are so many factors that come into play into our credibility cocktail, and yet oftentimes you only focus on what's lacking. I've told you about me starting the podcast. I was very scared to start the podcast because I was like, who will listen? How will I record? I don't know the software. I've never had the option of recording a podcast. I don't even know how to record. I have a stutter. I talk very fast. Like, all those things, I kept on looking at them as hindrances from me starting the podcast. And I recall the first episode I recorded, I deleted it like 10 times. I recorded it, I noticed I was talking so fast. I wrote a script, I noticed I was reading and skipping some words. Like, I was very scared to open the podcast because I didn't consider myself credible enough to do this. The same thing applies to us as professionals. We are scared of a lot of things because we don't take into account all the components that make us as a whole, or that make us as a whole as professionals. So I'm going to introduce to you my way of getting the confidence that you need and stepping into the next career opportunity that you want. And that is through the credibility cocktail. With a credibility cocktail, first and foremost, we look at your training and your hard skills. You look at your strength and soft skills. You look at the social proof that you have, your unique perspective, your complementary experience, and in the middle of it all, it's you, your zeal, your passion, what drives you, what purpose you have, and what mission you're up to. So I'm going to describe these ingredients in detail in the following slides. So that's just a summary of what a credibility cocktail entails. So the first thing in the credibility cocktail, just like any cocktail, a cocktail is that you mix things in different proportions and different quantities to get one wholesome thing. And if one of the components of a cocktail is missing, it can still be a nice cocktail. So let's not sell ourselves short because of what we lack, but let's focus on what we have. The first thing is training and hard skills. Training involves all the formal qualifications that you have, including certifications. It might involve you having a degree, a master's degree, a PhD, certifications like from cooperatives, like let's say ACCA, CPA, IT certifications, anything that shows that you've acquired some form of training and you've studied. It's part of the training and hard skills. The next thing might be online courses or coaching programs that you've taken up to upskill. This might be this that you're going through that I'm teaching you how to find your value. It might be something you attended through LinkedIn or Skillshare or Coursera, or short courses that have been put at your workplace. Anything that you have taken up to learn and advance yourself falls into the training and hard skills. The other thing might be any softwares that you know or measurable skills that you can include on your resume. These might be you're good at WordPress, you're good at Adobe iCloud and Adobe Suite. You might be you're good at presentation, you're good at SPSS, like all those are softwares that you're good at. All those fall into your training and hard skills. The next thing that we have to look at is your strength. Anything that comes so naturally for you to do that you often take it for granted falls under your strength. Less measurable but highly valuable skills that help you have the special edge. Like some people are just good at communication. You might take it slightly and you're like, I just love to talk, but that's a skill that can be utilized to your advantage and getting ahead in your career. You might be good at networking, that when you meet people, you make them feel at home, you're easy to form small talk, you easily interact with people. Like when people come to you, they find it so easy to talk to you. You're easily approachable. It might be problem solving. It might be that you take up tasks very well and lead projects very well. All those are strengths and skills that you need to look into yourself and identify them and put them to your advantage. The next thing that we have to look at, ingredient 3, is the relevant experience. This relevant experience could be the hours you've clocked up in your day job. Experience has always been a big thing, especially if you're starting out in your career. Many people ask for 5 to 10 or 3 to 5 year working experience, but many of people don't have it. But if you've done internships, if you've done sabbaticals, if you've volunteered, how many clients have you helped to achieve their desired results? If you're an entrepreneur, what lived experiences have you gone through while working and building your personal brand? What lived experience have you been through, like in presentation? Who have you interacted with? All that we can look at it in terms of relevant experience in relation to what you're after or in relationship to where you're going. So after we've done that, the next thing is we look at the fourth ingredient. The fourth ingredient is complementary experience. Complementary experience means that the experience that you get from seemingly unrelated jobs to give you an advantage or an edge. For example, being a parent. You learn a lot of things when you become a parent. You learn how to juggle your family and juggle your work if you're going to work, how to take care of your family, how to plan. That is complementary experience that you can put your.
I hope you've learned something from this episode. And if you have, please rate and review wherever you listen to your podcast. Subscribe to this podcast. Share it with your family, friends, and those that you think are interested in career development. Also, follow me on the socials, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Pinterest. The username is The Frame Solutions. I can't wait to speak to you in the next episode. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.